This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
Of course, being a special broadcast, that means that programming will change a little bit in terms of the way we normally do things. That means our open line falls away, but that all our discussions then will center around our conversations with the three committee chairs that are joining us this evening. So listen in, draw closer. Everything you've always wanted to ask about these portfolio committees, the work of the legislature and the various committees in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, but we're too afraid to ask. Well, tonight it's just especially for you. All right, so let's get straight into it. I'll introduce you to the chairpersons of the committees, and in no particular order. The chairperson of the Committee for the Scrutiny of Subordinate Legislation. Now, this is a new one for me, but we'll find out in a moment more about the work that they do. The chair there is Ms. Matshidiso Mfikwe. Good evening, ma'am, and thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, Tabiso, and we really appreciate the opportunity to engage.
Absolutely. We appreciate that you invited us to be a part of this engagement. And also with us is the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, John Moody. Good evening to you, Mr. Moody. Good to have you with us. And last, but certainly not least, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Petitions, Vuyiswa Gentile. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to yourself, Tabiso, and the listeners at home.
In fact, let's just start with you right away. We generally accustomed to the committees in the legislatures mirroring the committees that exist in Parliament, but clearly there are certain committees that are unique to the legislatures, the provincial legislatures, such as the Standing Committee on Petitions. Tell us more about the work of the Standing Committee on Petitions.
No, thank you so much, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I think we may want to correct the perception that there's no mirroring. There are Section 79 committees which deal with public participation and petitions at the level of local municipalities, your cities, just the municipal municipalities, but also there would then be the legislature where there's a standing committee on petitions where we are, but also there's a select committee as well in the NSOP and the parliament that also deals as well with petition. And there's some level of processing of petitions that pertain to each and every level of governance. So your Section 79 committees on petitions at the level of municipalities, district municipalities and cities would then be expected to deal with service delivery issues at the level of municipalities, the water issues, for an example, if you are to cite, for an example, city power and what is this, the water agency as well, in the different municipalities. And I know where there are no agencies, municipalities would then deal with those petitions. But just general service delivery issues that are dealt with at the level of municipalities. So the committees at that level then process these petitions, make recommendations and intervene thereof. These are done by councillors at that level. And there's a chair who's a councillor and they would then report to the executive and say, look, this is how we've processed, and would then want a certain intervention. And as well, at the level of the legislature, the mandate of the legislature is quite exist around lawmaking, public participation, and very importantly, oversight and accountability. And I think the Petitions Committee then is able to do some sort of umbrella, coverage, because we process the petitions that we've received, but mostly we're dealing and you're enhancing the public participation, where we're allowing petitions that are written to us as a committee, and we would process them, in line with the Principal Act of 2002 on Petitions, Gauteng Petitions Act. We've just adopted at the level of the House the amendments made to that particular act, and the Speaker has signed, which is waiting for the Premier, such that there would then be a new legislation which then speaks to an Act of 2024. So we would then process those particular petitions, and if it's petitions that are provincial related, we then mediate on behalf of those particular citizens, and we would then earmark a certain department. For an example, let's say it's a petition on human settlements, because this is a huge number of we get a huge number of petitions, particularly in that department. Someone says, I am in the 1996-1999 list, I've been waiting for a house, I know I'm approved and I appear in a system, I just want to check how far are we in terms of the allocations. Then would send that particular request for intervention to the department, and the department would then respond on what they are able to give, because the reality is that sometimes the supply and the demand issues are not always it's not always feasible to literally deliver to everyone, but they would then state those particular issues and say, for an example, part of the interventions that I think we are proud to speak to would have been the extension in terms of the participation of the percentage that is allocated, where every time there is a project, for an example, allocation on housing, there would then be a 40% prioritized for 1996-1999 list, whereas previously you would just get an allocation. There would be allocation stats in terms of disability. Of course, it's still there, but it's now at 10%. But because of that gap, there is then a prioritization of 40% of the allocation. If it's 100 houses, 40% would then focus on the 1996-1999 list. So this is part of the successes that come through petitioning, and they will say, this particular petitioner is in Johannesburg. If there are any live active projects, we will look at prioritizing them if it's possible, but that report is then communicated to a particular petitioner. We then respond. Of course, there are timeframes in between, and say, look, this is what the department is communicating. We'll then make some sort of oversight. But I think I must speak to what we have just recently introduced at the level of the legislature, which is the referencing of or referral of these petitions. For an example, we would previously just send petitions straight to departments, but we realized that the portfolio committees in the legislature then get to be, taken out of the process of understanding what are the real needs of people as they raise them. So then they would do oversight on issues, but not issues of what people are, aggrieved on. So we've then said, now we want to then, at every petition that comes through, when we refer to the department, we also cross-refer to them so that they consider it for oversight work, but also to assist us to hold executive accountable. So that's the work of the committee, and we just have seriously a great number of people who petition in the province, and I think it must be commended. But there are still shortages in different parts of the province. We see a lot of people from Ekurhuleni petitioning, of a lot of people in the cities, to say in the city of Johannesburg, city of Tshwane. You're not seeing more coming from Citybeng and Western, but that is the work that we are entrusted with, and I think we really want to intervene and mediate between the people who send petitions and to different departments. But I think I must raise this, that they don't
Before you do that, let me just ask you to maybe just pause it there, because I want to give everybody an opportunity just first to lay the platform by introducing everybody just get some introductory remarks before we get into the greater detail. So let's come to you, John Moody. That's the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Maybe you want to elaborate elaborate more on the work of your committee.
Tabiso, maybe I should give it to you, in terms of our key responsibilities and then, of course, the objectives, so that a person can understand holistically what SCOPA stands for. Because sometimes people think we're the new sheriff in town and we have all powers. And we don't operate in a vacuum. We have to adhere to laws. So SCOPA ensures that public funds are utilized efficiently, effectively, and transparently. The committee also reviews audit reports and investigates allegations of financial mismanagement or irregularities. And then we also hold government departments and entities accountable for their financial management and performance. And then we look at recommendations. The committee makes recommendations to improve financial management, governance, and accountability in the public sector. And what's our objectives in doing that? It is to promote transparency and accountability. We aim to do that in terms of holding departments and entities accountable in the use of public funds and resources in the interests of the public. And we also want to look at ensuring efficient use of those resources. We ensure that the public resources are utilized efficiently and effectively to achieve their intended purposes, which is to improve the lives and the plight of our people. And then, of course, to prevent financial mismanagement. And we try and look at preventing corruption and irregularities in the public sector. And by exercising this oversight and scrutiny, SCOPA plays a very crucial role in promoting good governance, accountability, and transparency in the public sector.
Right. Okay. So we'll get more on that, on SCOPA's work as well. Let's also introduce you to the chairperson once again of the Standing Committee on the Scrutiny of Subordinate Legislation, Matsiriso Mfigwe. Tell us more about what this is. This, as I said, I'm learning of this one. It's a new one to me. Yeah.
No, thank you very much.
Sure I'm not alone.
No. Thank you very much, Tabiso, and to the listeners at home. No, we do get tongue-tied. Myself as well. I sometimes forget, and we just give it a very short abbreviation, and we say CSSL. So that makes it very easy.
That's great, yeah.
The committee does it's Committee on the Scrutiny on Subordinate Legislation. Firstly, we participate in lawmaking. And in this case, it's formulation of regulations. Regulations would be varied. We do regulations on what people pay at the gambling, at your casinos. We determine the fees that people pay. We also do regulations on hospitals. We call it uniform regulations. It's the money that we pay when we do... money that we pay for at hospitals, when people take their corpse at mortuaries, we do the fees there. We also do the fees for EMS, your ambulances. Then we also do transport traffic regulations as well. That is our lawmaking part of CSSL. Then we also do stakeholder engagement, where we go out to talk to different stakeholders, especially those ones that would have approved the regulations for. Then we scrutinize bills or any laws that would be referred to the committee and advise the institution as to whether we would want to develop regulations out of that or not. I can tell you that you are tongue-tied because it doesn't exist anywhere but in Gauteng.
There we go.
The province is the only province, the legislature, that has the committee. We currently trying to get other provinces to also formulate them, because it makes it easier in the application of bills and acts of legislatures. We will be going to KZN, and they have showed an interest of forming the committee. It is formed by the act of the legislature. So a proper act was done in 2008. It was amended in 2012, so that it's there. But it is an important committee that makes it easier for the institution to work with the executive. So the regulations would be brought by the executive, like the Department of Transport. The MEC will bring those transport regulations is the money that we need to pay when we renew our discs. That money, those fees. Part of what we're going to do in the next quarter is going out to hospitals, because we've picked up that a lot of patients do not know that they must pay when they are either going for checkups or for admission. It's not a lot of money, but people don't know that they must pay. So, and those are part of the regulations that we do as the committee.
So your committee, actually, the work that you do, you work with every department.
Every department,
so,
all of them. I mean, the uniform one is for health, transport is for transport, gambling board reports to economic development. So the MECs will refer to the committee through the office of the speaker. Then we do a proper meeting. We even do a socio-economic study on the impact of those regulations to communities. And we go out. We also do oversight. We call it post-scrutiny. It's not oversight because we don't do oversight, we do scrutiny.
Right.
So it's called post-scrutiny, but it's our oversight to the people that are affected by those fees that we are approving. We've done EMS. We've had quite a lot of engagement with the people that are running EMS to understand what is the impact of the application. We are going to do the hospitals, as I'm saying. We have had engagement with the bookmakers for casinos. We've done quite a few. We'll talk about as the program continues, for us to understand the impact of those regulations on their businesses.
Okay. This is the Power Perspective on Power 98.7, coming to you live tonight. We are coming to you from the Gauteng Legislature. We're in conversation with three committee chairs, and we are covering the work that each of their committees do. And this is also an ideal opportunity for you as well to have direct access to the provincial legislature. So please give us a call, 0861 987 000. Drop us a voice note if you prefer on 083 303 7093, and then on X at Tabiso Tima or at Power FM 987. So we'll carry on with our conversation with my three guests after this.
Call TT on 0861 987 000.
Yes, it is the Power Perspective live tonight from the Gauteng Legislature. We have three committee chairs with me. The chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, John Moody, Standing Committee on Petitions. The chair there is Vuyiswa Jetile, and the Standing Committee on the scrutiny of subordinate legislation led by Matsidi Somfikwe. They are all three of them are with us here this evening. So let me come back to you, Ms. Gentile. You, I think, you gave us a very thorough explanation about the work that you do. From what I could decipher, and you correct me if I'm wrong, your role is more of a liaison role, because I gather these petitions. Maybe let's put it this way. Talk us through the process of how things arrive in front of the various petitions arrive in front of the committee, the process that is followed, and then how you subsequently handle whatever it is that comes to you.
All right. No, thanks. So obviously, the petitioning process would start administratively.
Or maybe when we talk about petition, maybe it's also worthwhile explaining what we mean by the petition.
All right. So basically, one writes a letter of complaint, or someone is aggrieved over a service delivery issue, over a policy issue of government, and they would feel that really they've gone everywhere, and they then need to raise it, in a legislative manner, because there's an act that legislates the work that we're doing. So they would submit a petition. There is a modernized way, because Gauteng is becoming young. There's an e-petition system which allows people to submit electronically, but we're still receiving a lot of petitions at the legislature where someone comes and walks into the legislature and they submit a physical complaint. And there is then an administration work that happens before a petition is brought to the committee, where there's an investigation into maybe a petition that would have been submitted, to check if indeed that petition qualifies to be tabled as per the Act to the committee itself, because it's the committee that then adopts a petition, or rather processes a petition, and and say this then does qualify as a petition. So there would then be that administrative investigation to check if someone was petitioning, they've checked other avenues, do they have their full names, their proof of identity, and then it's then brought to the committee, and the committee would then check if it's within the provincial purview, because a lot of petitions that we would receive as a committee in the past are municipal petitions, where petitioners are saying we've been to municipalities, we didn't find some sort of assistance and intervention, and we're bringing it to yourselves maybe for intervention, and would then process those particular petitions and check with the members of the committee if they are comfortable to adopt. And on adoption, the very most important thing is to assess if a petition is a provincial petition, and you identify a department where you are then going to refer the petition. But also, if it's a municipal petition, it then means you must, if someone says, and this is why we're saying go and exhaust all avenues, we then say, let's contact the municipality. Section 79, you had a petition like this, what was your resolve in this petition? And they would then send us, some sort of report and say, this is how we had resolved, but someone then appealed and they were still not satisfied, and they then came to you, and then would then take it from there. And at the level of the province would refer it straight to the department. Now, with what we've adopted recently, would cross-refer it to a portfolio committee to assist us with oversight work, but also to monitor. And I think because your portfolio committees, because we're a standing committee, the portfolio committees, which are mirrored into different departments in the province, interact more with departments. And as a standing committee, ours, would be more maybe on lawmaking, would be more on public participation. And sometimes I think this is what City would have spoken to, the looking more into different stakeholders, and would then cross-refer to portfolio committees, which are mirrored, as I would have indicated, to different departments for them to assist us and track, the petition that we would have sent. But I think it's important maybe to then indicate that there would be timeframes which are legislated in our Petitions Act, which we hope soon it will, because when the Premier is signed, it should then become an act that we can work on, because it's been adopted in the House. We are speaking on 7 days in terms of the feedback, to say, we have processed your petition on acknowledgement. There must be some, because I think one of the issues that really, irritate our citizens is the issue of feedback. And when you petition and you just wait, you get irritated because you have been everywhere before. So we are saying in the amendment bill, there must then be some sort of feedback in 7 days that says we have acknowledged and we are then in the process. We then send to departments, and departments must then respond to the committee in 30 days. And if that 30 days passes, would then request for the portfolio that would have cross-referred to assist us in oversight work and accountability work with the departments, and would then give them 10 days to give us a full report. And the report that we get, we must then still send it to the committee for sort of quality assurance if it really speaks into the issues that were raised, and we think that we find it, adequate, to send back to the petitioner as a response. So that is the work that we do, and then we then respond and send to a petitioner. And if a petitioner is not satisfied with our process, they're welcome to appeal to ourselves. But if they feel that the appealing process may delay them, we always then advise them to take it to the NCOP, but also to take it to the public protector. I've also seen some of the petitioners, particularly on service delivery issues, taking some of their petitions on to the Human Rights Commission if they feel that their rights were, compromised one way or the other. So that is the work that we're doing. So we're not more of a liaison. We're an accounting body, because that's what we are entrusted with as a committee. But over and above the accountability, we also do oversight. Because we can't just rely on what you submit to us. As public representatives, we want to go and see the conditions that people are raising in their petition. Someone would say, for for an example, I am living in a road that no ambulance, can access. No one can literally drive, and this is maybe a provincial road. This is a local road. I've raised these issues with the municipality. There was no intervention, and then I'm bringing it to you. So we then go at the discretion, of course, of the committee, select which petition we want to go to an oversight on, because there's a lot of petitions that we really receive, and then we do that. So we are not a liaising body. Our work is in line with the mandate of the legislature, which is public participation, which is oversight, which is the holding account of the executive.
So then how does, when it comes to, say, for example, you receive petition, let's use the right jargon here, you receive a petition, it is perhaps something that is related to transport, for argument's sake, someone complaining about the fact that Lillian Ngoyi Street is taking forever to fix. That would be the sort of thing I would imagine that would you be directing to a portfolio committee on transport. But who ultimately has the final say in or ensuring that petition is dealt with?
So it's the MEC. Maybe we must use this session as well to also, sort of remind our citizens that before MECs are MECs, they are members of the provincial legislature. So there would then be segregation of duties in terms of government. So we're government, all of us, but our work is around the mandates, which is your lawmaking, oversight, public participation, and corporate governance. But the executive authority deals with the day-to-day service delivery kind of issues. So it's the members of committees, it's the members of the provincial legislature that must then hold executive accountable. So we are very mandative in our act and the bill that we've just amended, that the MEC must respond. And when we do these oversights, we don't want to do them alone. The MECs together with the HODs and senior officials, because we don't want a case where you say, I don't know, I'm still going to ask. The MEC must then be able to take the work of the legislature seriously and be able to respond to us. And if we're satisfied, really would then close on the petition, if as well the resident is satisfied with that petition.
Do disputes arise between committees where, for example, the Committee on Transport says, hang on, but we've done this, we've settled this matter, so, and where the committee, your committee perhaps feels like, no, this was not adequately handled?
So we have not had disputes, because the way committees of the legislature are coordinated, they are coordinated in such a way that different members who are sometimes chairpersons in different committees would sit in committees that they are then able to assist in moving the work. For example, in the petitions committee, I have around 5 chairpersons of different portfolios that sit. Including the chairpersons
of
different portfolios in the committees.
Right. Okay.
Now, for an example, I want to cite it then responds to the issue of the coordination. You are raising an issue of a traffic light, and right there and then we have adopted a report hearing system which responds to the oversight work, where we then appoint right away the chairperson and say, Chairperson, we're appointing you to do a report hearing work on this particular petition, that you take it to your committee, and then you can do work and then come back report to the committee. The work. No. The committees hold accountable. Now, when they then come back, they then say, this is the work that we have done. When the report comes from the department, they must then speak to each other, and then we're satisfied, and then we then close. So we have not had a lot of, people with then, conflicting views, because the coordination around the members that sit in committees then respond to the different needs of the petitions that are raised.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me come to you, John Moody, and now perhaps just delve into more of the work that, because this part of the session is about the feedback of the work that you did in Q4, if that's correct. Just some of the main issues. For example, I did spot that one of the things that you were dealing with was a report from the public protector, including service delivery failures in Alexandra. So just talk to us about some of that work that you've been doing in the Q4. And by the way, when you speak Q4, what period are we referencing?
Okay. This was actually a joint probe, if I may call it that, by the Human Rights Commission as well as the Public Protector into the Alex issues. And it emanated from a media statement that was put out by the then ward councillor that indicated that Alex is about to ignite and go up in flames due to a lack of service delivery. And from that interaction and investigation by both these two Chapter 9 institutions, a number of findings was brought to the fore. It dealt with and unearthed things such as maladministration, allegations of corruption, poor service delivery generally speaking, but let me be more specific in a couple of them. The lack of bylaw enforcement, the lack of response from the SAPS, lack of waste removal, which then impacted upon the health aspect because of rodent infestation, and even as far as the issue with regard to clinics and social services, access to social services. And more specifically, let me deal with the issue firstly with regard to the Alexander Renewal Project,
Right.
which we know as a Thabo Mbeki initiative.
Yes.
There was huge findings of and allegations of probable misconduct there, and not just maladministration, but also possibility of criminal activity. And that was then referred to the erstwhile, the previous Premier, David Makura, for him to, with a recommendation that he petitions the President for an SIU investigation into that project. Because as we may know or may not know, an SIU investigation can only be initiated with an instruction from State President. And that hasn't happened. So, to date. And that was something that was raised. As a committee, we raised it with Premier Lesufi, who has indicated that he will definitely follow through on that particular recommendation from these two bodies.
Why has it not happened up to now? I mean, this is something dating back, as you say, this was an initiative of the Thabo Mbeki government. That's a long time ago. We've had, how many presidents have we had since then?
Well, the investigation took place about 2-3 years ago. So a person needs to look at that time frame as well. But there is still remnants of, it's still an ongoing project. It's not a closed project per se. So therefore those findings were. And the issues with regard to bylaw enforcement, waste management, and the general service delivery aspects that were raised that were infringing upon the human rights of the people of Alex, which more specifically also in terms of the housing and so on. Let me just emphasize the following. It is just not unique to Alex. It is throughout Gauteng and South Africa that you have this type of environment, especially where you have overcrowding, a lack of space, etc. But we're talking about this particular project. After the findings of the commission, they needed to then send their findings to the Johannesburg municipality, as well as the province. Now, why did they send to the province? The province needed to deal with social services because it had an overarching responsibility. It is both municipal level as well as province. Also, the issue of policing, that is your SAPS. The province has an oversight role over the SAPS and also over the Metro Police, but the Metro Police also accounts to the city of Johannesburg. And therefore it was then referred to them, and of course the other issues with regard to waste management, etc., was referred to the city of Johannesburg for them to be able to look at it and then inform these two bodies as to what steps they will be taking with regard to the recommendations and the findings of these two institutions. By the time they then have to give them a period of time in which to respond and then follow through on it, and then we, as the legislature, had requested that report from them, and therefore we got the report. But since the findings of those commissions, and they're forwarding it to the City of Johannesburg and, of course, the province, and the follow-up thereof, there has been a number of steps taken by the City of Johannesburg. So there is remedial action has taken place, and it continues now. An example, a case in point, is the social services. Access to social services is now an actual office right in Alex. The issue of transport has been addressed as well. By law enforcement, Metro Police has come to the fore. They are taking the remedial action. Waste management is taking place. And when we talk about waste management, please remember that waste management is provided, and that was a finding too, equally across Sandton as well as Alex. But because of the density in Alex, you have to look at where you have up to 8 to 10 dwellings on one stand.
Right.
It cannot be compared to a once a week service. And that leads to dumping, etc., because of the volume. So the city, of course, had to come up with a process with a limited budget as to how they address those specific issues which leads to illegal dumping, etc., building on the Yuxkay Bank when it comes to housing, etc. So there has been remedial action taken. When we looked at those recommendations and we engaged with the public protector who had presented it to us, they said this, and this was our findings, but this, and this is what the department, that the municipality has done and the province has done, which has addressed those issues.
Right.
One that was outstanding was the issue that I have referred to, which is the investigation of the SIU into the thing. And as I indicated, that the Premier has given us an assurance that he will definitely be taking that matter forward.
That is.
Can I also just indicate that when it comes to that investigation under the mayoralship of Mashaba during 1916 to 1919, 1920, he had initiated an investigation. So that report deals with the issues that were found within by those two commissions with regard to the Alexander renewal process. So that means that GFIS report is sitting with the City of Johannesburg, and therefore that should be taken by the Premier and then be forwarded to the President for him to initiate the investigation.
That's John Moody, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, one of the three chairpersons that are with me here this evening on the Power Perspective, the other being the chair of the Standing Committee on Petitions, Vuyiswa Gentile, and the chair of the Standing Committee on the Scrutiny of Subordinate Legislation, Matshidiso Mfikwe. Basil has been holding for a while, and let me also take this opportunity to invite other callers on 0861 987 000. I think now that we've laid the foundation and given you an idea of what the work that the various committees, what is the three committees that we are discussing here tonight, that they are involved with, maybe you in there can see one that is relevant to your particular situation or anything that you want to raise. So please give us a call on 0861 987 000, WhatsApp 0833037093, and then on X at Tabisotima or at Power FM 987. Let's hear from Basil in Boksburg. Good evening, Basil.
Good evening, Titi. Good to
and
talk
thank
to
you so much for your patience.
No problem. Titi, for me personally, I think this is increasing bureaucracy. Honestly, I don't see the need of the other two committees. I think it's just the repetition of
which other
the
two?
Job.
You say you didn't see the need for the other.
The one that I think is relevant is SOPA. I think the other ones, it seems as if they are some sort of an ombudsman. I don't understand what's going on there. Let me give you a practical example. So the lady gives an example to say, one of your best to say, let's take for instance, I go and petition and say, the road, maybe the ambulances cannot get there, what have you, and everything. And then what happens thereafter? What happens if you have a body like SCOPA that has had recommendations from the time of making, and those they are binding, by the way, which has not been implemented for about 15, 18 years now. What is it that they're going to do? Now I just think that these committees they just want to keep us busy talking, and there will be no results. We'll just be chasing our tails. We'll talk and talk and talk. They convene and say, "I send your petition to this department and that department." I was skeptical when they said they will reply within 7 days. And then she clarified to say, "We will acknowledge your petition within 7 days." And then after what happened, for me, we just want to be kept busy here. I see no relevance.
Okay.
The government keeps on talking about making it leaner and so that it can respond better. For me, these committees are not relevant at all for me.
Okay. Okay, Basil, thank you so much for that. Please listen on the radio. I'm going to give an opportunity to the chairpersons to defend their existence. So, Mfikwe, no, you guys are just adding bureaucracy upon layers of bureaucracy. Why is Basil misguided, if he is?
Maybe we should have asked him.
No, I'm telling you, he doesn't think he's misguided. He feels he's got a point that you guys are just there's too much duplication in terms of the work that your two committees are doing. Because the only person who should be collecting a check is John Moody.
I guess we could lately allow John Moody to collect the checks. It's a lot of work. It's quite a lot of work.
No, but seriously. Tell Basil why.
I don't think Basil has taken time to really do his own research, or probably here when we introduce the committees. No committee can discuss and approve the gambling regulations. That is the work of CSSL. No committee is mandated to approve the road traffic regulations. That is why the Department of Transport sends them to CSSL to say, this is what we are proposing to be the amount that you must pay for your disc. Tell us if we are doing that according to the Constitution, according to the laws, according to the CPI ratio. Check the socio-economic impact of these increases that we want. That responsibility is sitting with CSSL, not Department of Transport. That is why they bring the gambling board.
So what he's saying is that why can those departments not do that? Why does it need a separate committee?
Because they can't do oversight on their own, on themselves. They can't sit and say, okay, we want to increase the discs with 10 rands. We think it's correct.
Right.
Somebody might say to them, no, or yes. No, because. Yes, because we've checked the socio-economic impact. We think Gauteng residents will afford.
Is there a specialized set of skills that sit within Lena must get this acronym right.
CSSL.
CSSL. Let's call it that. So I must sound like an insider. CSSL. Is there a special set of skills that sit in this committee that do not exist in the portfolio committee?
Yes. Yeah. That is why they refer them to.
Tell us about those skills that exist. Or what makes you guys so special?
Because you have a researcher that is capacitated and skilled to be able to conduct the socioeconomic study, and of course he will look at various issues that are affecting the community, employment levels, poverty levels, and say that is why they come and say, this increase we think it will impact negatively on the users, on the car owners. That is why it's also important that within the approval process, public participation is done. That TT must say, I can't afford to pay this disc. You know, then CD must say, I know, with my car, I think what you're charging me is okay. So the backbone of the existence of the legislature is conducting public participation. We have a responsibility to do that.
Okay. I am assuming that it's your committee as well that's going to be charged with this thing with the new number plates and all of that. That's going
I guess
to
the
eventually has
department
to
can
arrive.
bring,
Yeah.
and we conduct the socio-economic impact and also approve the regulation. They must develop the draft regulation, bring it to us for approval. Then if we are happy, we've done all the necessary checks and balances, then we can approve those as well. I want to speak a bit, Titi, about the gambling regulations. It's still the same procedure.
Do you want to jump into that before Voice justifies her job?
Oh,
maybe let's do that.
You are rubbing salt into this thing.
I'm just representing
yes,
Basil.
no, that's proper.
No, Tabiso, I think let's remind the citizens of Gauteng of Section 17 of the Constitution that speaks to public democracy. And that is why the Parliament, the legislature exists. The petitioning process is a constitutional issue. So if one feels that really they don't want to petition, they've lost confidence in governance, then they don't. But for those that still have some sort of, hope, they can always petition. It's enshrined in the Constitution. It is their democratic right to do so. And there must be enabling institutions, committees that then allow and enhance democracy, that then allows and enhance a constitution. That is why we exist. We do not exist out of, a sinus tuktezi kind of an arrangement. It's a constitutional issue. It's a committee of the legislature that is, at the back of what the Constitution recommends, which is the right to petition. But I think very important for me is at the center of the work that we're doing is a consultation process. We don't just wake up and put systems. There's a consultation process of how people want to petition. And this is what we've done in the amendment bill that has just been adopted in the House. We said to people, there's an act, a Gauteng Petitions Act, which was last, adopted in 2002. Democracy has matured, Tabiso. How do you want to petition? Do you think the relevance of petitions in 2002 and the relevance of petitions now needs to be enhanced? And people have then indicated to us that this is how we would want to petition, and that is part of the work that we are doing. So a lawmaking exercise is centered around consultation and public participation by our people, and the work that we are doing really is mandated by the Constitution, and every level of government, particularly the legislatures, parliament, must then put in place, committees or systems that allow enhancements of democracy, and that is why we really exist. So really, as to if one feels that they don't see the work, I don't think that is a true reflection. We are sitting with a backlog of over 700 petitions of people who petition in the province, and I have indicated that these are just cities. You just have a small margin of percentage in terms of the districts, which is the West Rand and Sidibeng. We do believe that with more education to our people, and I think these platforms create such, where people then not only us as MPLs, members of provincial legislature, we hold government and executive accountable. They can also say, we want to hold you accountable because we've submitted a petition, and there's an act that speaks to time frames that then says after a petition, then must be some sort of resolve. So the accountability issue does not only lie with us on the executive side, but when you petition, you are also able to then say, I want to hold chairperson and the committee accountable for them not being able to, stick to their own act, because they then also say they are contravening the act that they've also adopted and that they're working on.
Okay, let's come to the chairperson here of the Standing Committee on the Scrutiny of Subordinate Legislation. Masiso Fikwe, you are just about to touch on something to do with gambling regulations, and I'm sure that that can be an entire discussion on its own, given how people have felt very strongly about gambling and the proliferation of particularly sports betting in this in the country. In fact, it's around the world. Let's be fair; it's not even a South African phenomenon. But let me allow you to weigh in on what you wanted to say about gambling regulations.
Thank you very much, Titi. When we did the regulations, we picked up a very disturbing phenomena. That the both the gambling board team and when we did the stakeholder engagement, we also picked up with the companies that we went to see that which we concluded is a societal problem, that you have the elderly gambling. Research that was done shows that as soon as they earn their pensions, they are taken by taxis to casinos and they stay there. They leave only because as they win, they think money is coming. Ultimately, they lose everything. Then they become a problem. So we then did the post-scrutiny to the two bookmakers that we went to, and they did indicate that they are experiencing that as well. So part of what we need to and maybe appreciating this opportunity to engage with media is to say to society, there is something wrong that society is doing that is affecting the elderly, that they will rather go and stay at a casino for 3-4 days without going back home. So that's one. Two, then we referred the findings to the social development team so that through the portfolio committee chair, the department can see what support, social support does the elderly need, especially for them to go stay those days and spend their pension money at a casino.
The challenge with that you are describing there, was it particularly with the elderly that you was in research? And I'm gonna say, when we're talking about the elderly, let's just I'm assuming we're talking about recipients of old age pensions,
old age pensions,
as opposed to people who call me old.
Yeah,
because I'm not elderly.
Yeah.
So let's be clear what we mean.
You are relatively elderly
compared to,
or you are too young.
Very young. So
the elderly.
So it was found it's a particular problem with the recipients of old age
pension grants. Yes. Yeah. So it was focusing there.
Okay.
But then there was also a challenge on online gambling, which is unfortunately not regulated. And I know MEC Maile is beginning to talk about that as one of the challenges that the province needs to respond to. So online betting, online gambling is not necessarily regulated in Gauteng. I mean, you'll hear one or two adverts on your radios and other radios that they are regulated by the Western Cape government.
Mpumalanga is
Mpumalanga as well, and Western Cape, and it's us who are. That one, young people are hooked on online betting. I get the iPhone and all those good phones that they can. But probably, I don't know. But our major concern was on the elderly, because we picked that up as a societal issue. That why would an old woman earn her pension and not want to go home? Why? That is why we said that social development must look at that, and which is a problem. Then the other regulations that we did are regulations that are talking about regulating domestic and international tours for learners, which piqued our interest because last year and the other year, kids were drowning in school, on school trips.
We had a few of these incidents.
And there are regulations that says to schools, this is what you need to follow before you approve a trip. Local trip, the district need to know. Interprovincial, the MEC need to know. Interprovincial, the MEC need to approve international trips. But then on the post-scrutiny...
And this is for all schools, not
all
just
public schools,
only
unfortunately. It's all public schools because then they are managed by the Department of Education in the province, not your private schools. But when we looked at the regulations, they are good that they could be emulated and adopted by private schools. But the focus is on public schools. that why would because then we went to different schools throughout the province. When we arrive at some of the schools, the principal hasn't seen the regulation. They don't know they're existing. But the department said to us, no, we've given to principals, we've workshopped them. So they don't know about that. I mean, there's a school where the organizers of the trip, because they were fighting amongst themselves, abandoned the trip. There's a school in Ekurhuleni who took the kids to a camping site. When they arrived at the camping site, the owners of the camping site said, no, Regrandi, leave your kids, we'll take care of them. Then 2 kids drowned there. Teachers were not there. Educators were not there. And that's because the regulations are saying in every trip there must be the organizer, if there's a social worker in the school, or a teacher that is looking after kids' mental and physical being must be there. Those are in the regulations. You know, that every school must have a policy aligned to the regulations. But of the 10 schools that we went, 6 of them did not have a policy. You know, they did not even report to the department or the district that we are going on a trip. When the regulations are actually saying, at the beginning of the year, you must submit a plan on your trips to the department, but those things are not done. So that is part of the work that we do. So we're doing that work so that you are able to assist these departments to do their work, especially taking care of their clients. So I'm picking up the two because they have a huge impact on how society is supposed to be kept safe. You know, then, as I said, we did look at the transport regulations as well, where we had a challenge that we're not happy about the amount or level of public participation that was done. So we need to redo the public participation for the transport regulations. So basically, those are the issues that we're dealing with, you know, and they're impacting society. We wouldn't have picked up that the elderly, Babloma, go casino for 3-4 days. It's only the committee that was able to pick that up. You know?
It's an interesting one. And of course, yes, as you say, these are societal issues as well that we also need to, as a society, grapple with. For example, I mean, we don't also want to, at the same time, infantile, you know, treat, you know, the elderly, as we call them, as infants. You know, these are grown men and women, you know, who are, we would assume, capable of managing their own affairs. If they've decided that, you know, blooming the whole night at a casino is what they want to do, to tell them, you know, those are the kind of things that...
asking that.
you know,
but it's a worrying trend.
Yeah, it becomes a societal thing, I think, because maybe there are so many families that are actually dependent on that grant. You know, where that old age grant probably supports, I don't know, 3-4 children in a home. You know, so that is an issue. All right, let's come to you, John Moody, because seemingly you're apparently the only one who should be employed and drawing a paycheck. Let's talk about, we touched on, you outlined what's happened with Alexandra renewal program and as far as the report from the Human Rights Commission and the Public Protector's Office is concerned. What are some of the other issues that received attention in the Q4?
Well, you asked me a question that I didn't answer earlier.
Okay. Please go back to it.
What is the fourth quarter?
Yes, I did ask you about the time.
January to March.
Okay.
Is it financial
of a year? Yeah, financial year. Yeah.
Okay.
The quarter.
Right.
If I may, just for
Q4,
so they can understand how the financial year works as compared to the calendar year.
Okay.
The financial year for the legislature is, the first one is from April to June, the first quarter. Second one would be from July to September. The third one will be October to December, and then of course the last one will be January to March. What was also brought to the attention in terms of that report by the Public Protector was the issue with regard to the Maibuye Primary School. The Commission found that initially it was believed that the school was built on a wetland. It then transpired that it was actually built very close to and encroaching upon a sewer line that was leaking. There was a lot of overruns in terms of time and budget, and a lot, possibly irregular expenditure and graft as well. And as I'd indicated earlier on, the Public Service Commissioner indicated what their findings were, also what they had forwarded to the Department of Education as well as the Department of Infrastructure Development, because they are the ones that built the school, and said, these are our findings, you need to respond to it. And what are you going to do, because these are our recommendations. And of course they responded as to what they are doing to mitigate against, and also timeframes in which they would be doing it. And when we received the report, a number of steps had already been taken. The school was actually operational. The sewer line was repaired and it is been moved, because it is not really where the buildings are. It is more on the playground area. And the rehabilitation of the area is taking place. The students or learners are prohibited from entering that particular area that has been contaminated. But within the next few months, it shall be absolutely concluded in terms of the rehabilitation and so on. With regard to
this comes at, I imagine, at a cost.
At a cost, yes. Which talks to the fact that you've done something, you have to redo it, or you have to now spend more money on it. But there has been steps taken. Initially, there was a perceived reluctance from the government to actually embark upon a fact-finding matter, issuing with regard to the irregular expenditure, planning, etc. But that remedy has also been addressed. There had been investigations. Some employees had been reprimanded. Others are still facing disciplinary hearings. And also there is also criminal charges laid. Now, one thing I need to tell you from a SCOPA perspective is that when you tell us that there has been remedial action taken with regard to accountability, because there's a disciplinary action that has been taken, or people have resigned, because that has been something in the past where people just resign when they know they're facing a DC. We go further and say, so that person has resigned. What criminal charges have you opened against that person? Has that criminal charge been opened and an application made to the asset forfeiture unit to forfeit any possible ill-gotten gains that they should not be benefiting from? And there has been follow-ups in that regard. There's a very strong message that's being sent by all the committees in this new 7th administration, and that is that we are not going to tolerate corruption. And you see, corruption...
Well, the previous ones was tolerating it.
No, I'm not going to answer that one. I'm going to answer for...
I mean, what do you say?
Yeah.
This 7th administration is not going to tolerate corruption, unlike...
Yeah, you could take it that way if you want to, but I'm going to tell you something that we are very serious as chairpersons. That the people have spoken. Let me tell you something. The people have spoken last year. And we have heard them. Remember, Chairperson Gentile just indicated that the people are tired and they're questioning things now, which shows to me, and it excites me about the fact that our people are becoming more politically not just aware but mature, because once upon a time you just followed. Now people are questioning and they want answers. And that shows a maturity in terms of our democracy and our people. So I'm very excited about it. But having said that, is that there is a follow-up. The message is very clear. Because when you look at irregular, wasteful, and unauthorized expenditure, you get clean audits. Yet those three particular aspects is sky high. And does a clean audit actually translate into better services to our people? We have... Budget is always a very small, should I say, very seldom does it, if ever, meet the actual demands. So the approach has to be different. The approach has to be, how do we maximize our outcomes, never mind our output? Because you can have be focused upon an input and an output. But what is the actual outcomes that you are seeking, and what is the impact down the line? Our impact that we are looking at is the improved living conditions and standards of service delivery in our province. Be it from health to education to everything else, there has to be an improvement. And our people need to feel, for example, when it comes to policing, the measure shouldn't be the number of arrests made. It should be the number of arrests made as compared to the number of cases going to court and the number of cases that are successfully prosecuted in court, which is an outcome. And the impact has to be that you live in a better Gauteng and a better South Africa. And that is where our focus is. So the remedial action had been taken. And from a SCOPA perspective, we had informed the two departments that we will be keeping a very clear watch on them. And there are those resolutions that have been passed that they need to give feedback to the committee. So they get 2 months in which to report back to us, and there's a follow-up because we want regular feedback from them as to, for example, my BIA school, as to how far they are and when it's going to come to an end, that rehabilitation comes to an end. And also how are they spending their budget and what would the overruns be. So it's a matter of looking at the prudent spend of the public purse.
Okay.
The other matter that was raised related
before
to...
you move on to the other matter, the accountability then, who does that rest with in terms of ensuring that there are people held accountable or entities held accountable for the Maibue saga?
Okay. SCOPA would, most cases we deal with audit findings by the Auditor General. And we then ask the necessary questions and etc. And we then get those responses from the department. And then resolutions are passed in the House. And once it becomes a House resolution, that means that that department is held accountable. Now, previously, I served in the legislature previously, but not on SCOPA. And I'm going to talk about the change in the way that we are addressing issues. Once upon a time, you'd say the department needs to tell us what they are doing about X, Y, and Z. We are no longer saying the department. We are now saying the accounting officer. Because the accounting officer is the person that must be held accountable. Because they are the persons that has to steer that ship. The political oversight or person that has to see that the department fulfills the mandate, the political mandate, the policy aspect, is your executive. But they're not the accounting officer. The accounting officer is that Director General or DGG. And we want to hold those people to the fire. Because if we now say, for example, the committee must, who are you going to hold accountable? The committee must do X, Y, and Z. I just say, you say the committee. There's nobody named. But if you say the chairperson of the committee needs to, that chairperson has to give account. I don't want to hear from the CFO or from you, the accounting officer, I'm holding your feet to the fire, deliver. And I think that is where we're bringing accountability and in terms of improved service delivery, because there is accountability and there is also the necessary action being taken to correct whatever may be wrong. And that also translates to the issue of unauthorized expenditure, irregular expenditure, as to why didn't you subscribe to the accounting principles? It does not necessarily mean that they bought this bottle of water instead of buying Valpre. It is irregular in the sense that the contract said Aquila, but they're still getting water. Why did you go against that particular policy? So we have to get these people to subscribe to and to the letter. The other issue that was raised was a house in Sebokeng, where the house wasn't built properly. The stand itself wasn't fit in terms of the preparation of the site for a house to be built on it, and it just became unlivable. But the original recipient had passed on, so the beneficiaries, of course, needs to be housed. The recommendation was from the Human Rights Commission as well as the Public Service Commission that they need to be allocated another house. But the report given by the Human Rights Commission as well as from the department was that the family or the recipients now, beneficiaries, don't want to. They've been offered a accommodation in a high-rise building. They don't want it. They've been offered a standalone house in another project, but it's not in the area. And the people are saying, no, this is our place and this is where we want to live. So what they need to do is they need to wait until, and they've been told this, that until there's going to be a project in the area that you want to live in. Unfortunately, you're going to have to live in the conditions that you're under. It is not safe for you. Please don't. But even the Public Service Commission and the Human Rights Commission saying it is now up to those people as to which way they want to go. But we're hoping that the matter will, finally lead to conclusion. Okay. Hopefully we can even look at the translocation and for them to demolish the house and rebuild the house and then bring them back there. But that's a negotiation that's taking place with those recipients.
It's the Power Perspective coming to you live from the Gauteng Legislature. We are with you for about another half hour. Please make use of this half hour and to give us a shout on 0861 987 000 with your questions or comments or edit observations that you want to make. Whatever contribution you want to make, please go ahead on those numbers 0861 987 000, WhatsApp 083 303 7093, and then on X at Tabisotema or at Power FM 987. Use the hashtag Power Perspective. Right, let me just share some of the comments that are coming through. Just if you've got to just make a note, ladies and gentlemen. So, Monatelo, I think this one is for you, Ms. Mfikwe, who says, I don't agree with her. Why an old woman gets her money and decides not to want to go home but go gamble. It's her choice. That person is pushing a passion. She have been doing it when she was young. She must have been doing it when she was young, and at that age is not raising kids. It is not their responsibility to raise grandkids. So just make a note of that, Ms. Mfikwe, and then we'll give you an opportunity to respond to it. Then Zolani Zunyane says, kindly request the chairperson of the chairpersons to ensure that the Gauteng Provincial Legislature officials upload responsibilities of each committee on the website. At the moment, the GPL website, you get to each committee, but there's no functions listed. So sounds like we need work on that on the website. Thank you so much, Zolani, for that. And then what was the other one? Okay, and then Nana Sakosele says, good evening, Tabiso and your guests. To the Scopa Chair, may I suggest, for the sake of transparency, to report the AGSA findings or reports through public platforms, e.g. your radio stations and TV stations, so to give the general public understanding. Okay, yeah, maybe, John, you want to pick up on that one, because I think, these kind of engagements are good. The way that you have explained, for example, the work that's been done on this Alex project, the Maibuye, I mean, it's to get a direct update. This kind of update, I think, is most useful. But just to answer the query there from Nana, how do you generally handle the reports once you've received them? What's the process in terms of also even making them public?
The Auditor General's findings or auditor findings is on their website, on the Auditor General's website. It can be found on the Legislature's website. However, when we do conduct hearings, we call them public hearings, it is open to the public. You invite stakeholders that have a keen interest in it, such as OTA and other organizations. It is Corruption Watch, etc. They normally send a representative. Depending on the venue that we are in, we try and encourage public participation. But remember that this is one of those unique committees that deals more specifically with finances and the spend of the public purse. So it's a very much a niche type of stakeholders platform type of thing. However, all our hearings are publicized, or should I say broadcasted, on YouTube.
Public,
on YouTube. It is a couple of days in advance already. The legislature's media personnel will post it on different social media platforms, etc., that this is what's coming up. And they do it with every other committee meeting. With all the committees, you'll see it regularly coming up, because we also receive it. So
and what is going to be
and what's going to happen, and what's going to be debated, and who the person is, and also our contact details. So the legislature is very open to our engagements as committees, because we are public representatives. We represent the interests of our people. We are not some entity that is somehow, aloof from the people that we represent. It is about their business. It is about what affects them, and therefore it is open to the public to participate, or to view it. If you are there present, we also, in instances when we are doing some interrogation of reports, we'll actually have stakeholders also asking questions. I come from a committee meeting today, which was a public committee meeting. It was a committee meeting, but with the public, and in that particular, it was agriculture and environment. We actually had the people whose lives were affected by the state of, or the dire state, I must say, of sewer works, wastewater works in the Mogale city area, and the Cradle of Humankind, and further down. They were there. There was close to about 100 people there, representing different communities and organizations. And we believe in taking government to the people. And today we're living in a world of technology. And when you open it up, in terms of technology, more people are able to participate. And also it's a cost factor. But you asked me a question. In a nutshell, we do encourage public participation.
There you go. Mema Mfikwe, hatele tlogele bo bagolo ba rona le modende wa bona.
No, thank you very much, Titi. If the elderly went to a casino and went in and out, go in, gamble and leave, they don't leave. When they are done and they want to go home, they don't even have taxi fare. So that cannot be pushing passion. It can be that you entered.
But how are you going to legislate? I get it, that's something that's eventually going to come to eventually.
Because part of our oversight or scrutiny with the casino, the bookmakers and the casinos, is for us to say, how do we protect these old people that are here? Come in and
not gamble. How do we protect everybody who comes in, who walks in through the door?
Youth.
Yeah, no, I'm
so
youth,
you
but
can
I'm also susceptible to the same.
You can say, I have eaten, I'm full now, I'm going home. You can say that.
Kandelona, what kind of pensioners do you know? Like
the
that
one
are incapable of making these
They
decisions?
don't leave, Titi.
But what I'm saying is that's not just my thing. That's not just unique to pensioners. There are young people that are even younger than me that have lost the plot when it comes to gambling addiction. Not all of them. Like
I'm taking you to Oversight, to honest scrutiny.
I'm happy to come. I'm not even denying what you're telling me. I'm not even saying what you're saying doesn't happen.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that when we do get to a point where we want to regulate that, or come up with some kind of regulation to try and save them from themselves, it can't be
focusing
targeted
on the elder.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
But right now, what we picked up as a critical concern is the elderly.
Okay.
And upon research being done, they go to the pay point, there's a quantum there, they get into the quantum, it drops them at the casino, it leaves, it must come back to pick them up, they don't leave. By the time they want to leave, even the fare for that quantum is not there. It's not there anymore. So we can't say that is passion. We can't say they're pushing passion.
Yeah.
Push passion, go
I don't
in,
know
gamble,
about- yeah.
maybe win.
Yeah.
Or when you realize that you are losing,
Yeah.
then you go. At least you still have some money to take you home. They don't have. And that is our worry. The regulation that will come will cover all. It will be an all-round regulation. You know, we can't be theorizing, don't gamble when you are less than 18. Correctly so, there are kids who are there. You know, so we need to look at protecting them from themselves with the Department of Social Development. There are people that are capable of saying, it's enough now. But because there's always a attraction to winning, because that machine is playing there, then that we must be able to empower them, communities and everybody that is gambling, to say, but now it's enough. There are adverts that are saying gambling is addictive, don't be addicted. But it's theory. How do we practicalize that statement?
For one, these 24-hour casinos, that would be a start.
Exactly. Those 24 hours, including the bookmakers themselves, because they can't be pushing money.
And
when
online, of course,
society is
online,
being
because
affected.
if you shut them out of the casinos, they
They're
can
going
still go
online.
online. Yeah. Let me come back to you, Vuyiswa Gentile, who's the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Petitions. I wanted to ask you about the petitions that you've received. You alluded to the backlog that you've got there. Is there a pattern that is emerging there? And maybe you also give us a sense of where you are getting most of the petitions from, because that in itself, I'm sure, is quite educative for you guys as legislatures and people with oversight responsibility in terms of to say this department needs to be focusing particularly on this because there's a problem here.
No, thanks, Tabi. So indeed, there are petitions. So we do reports, quarterly reports that would then give an analysis of the work that we're doing and an impact thereof of the work. And the bulk of petitions that we are getting are human settlements related housing petitions, and they range from the 1996, 1999 petitioners who are approved, or rather who would have applied and are in the part of the what do they call it, the analysis stage to check if they qualify. You would then have the petitions of people who are seeking houses who have not applied. You then have those who are saying, I have applied, a project had started and it was never finished. So we get a bulk of the petitions on housing and human settlements related issues, and I think it's safe
are they sort of evenly spread in terms of where they are coming from?
Yes, most definitely they are. As I would have indicated, that there's quite a few that come from Western and City Bank, but when they come, it's mostly service delivery issues around Mfuleni, and mostly it's human settlement housing issues related. And I wanted to speak to a process where, because we realized that a pattern would be of 10 petitions that we process as a committee, 6 or 4 your housing related, that we have adopted at the level of the legislature and the committee a balkanized process. If one has all the portfolio of evidence that speaks to them being approved, would then just balkanize and send straight to the department. But also it's important that we must advise our residents in Gauteng that, back in the day, a petitioning process required a lot of people to put in signatures to qualify a petition. Today you can, as a one person, petition on behalf of your community. You can petition, for an example, and I think one petition that would have received would have been a petition that came from a male petitioner, but who was raising issues of the menstrual leave for women. And look, it's if you are to look at it, it leans towards, it's more feminine, but it's raised by someone who is a male. So we then realize that because it's very difficult, because the people that are looking, they are looking at in terms of resolve are females, but the person who's petitioning is a male. So we then said, we think in terms of our analysis, let's do away with the gender and just deal with petitions as they come, because it's difficult to ascertain that indeed this is a male, because it's a male who's petitioning.
I was actually going to ask why you segment it like that, because why does it make a difference?
So as a committee, we have resolved to really do our way with that. But I think very important and very critical, anyone can raise a petition. You can raise a petition on an issue that does not directly affect you. You get in an area, and you can get residents really to then say, if I don't stay here, but I would have noticed this particular residence, are you then able to put in your name, such that if there is oversight and follow-up that is done, then the committee would go there. But also critically important, I think I would have overemphasized the issue of the demographics. The cities are petitioning. For me, it seems the education, is reaching them. And I'm going to say education because in a mature democracy, there would be encouragement of what we call this public participation, public democracy, that maybe, cities have some sort of privilege in terms of understanding. And the public participations unit really in the previous quarter, we've tried to have all our committee meetings with different municipalities, because I would have also raised over and above the issue of, the three cities, which is Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Johannesburg, petitioning the most. You have municipal petitions where people are saying, but we don't think that Section 79 municipal petitions are effective. We petitioned them, they didn't respond. And as part of really trying to enhance public participation, but also to make sure that these committees sit and resolve, because if you write to the legislature, it's outside the purview of the local government, but we must then go back and say, but respond, kind of a situation. We do have municipal petitions that we then get from different municipalities. We've had in the previous quarter almost all our committee meetings in different municipalities. But very important to note, in this particular administration and in the previous administration, we've not had any petitions from Lesedi municipality, which I think sometimes is usually a forgotten municipality, which is in the far south of the Vaal. And we want to really encourage our people to really participate, because
cool there by the sea.
Maybe everything is well, but there is, never anything well, right? So we do want to really encourage our people to exercise this democracy of theirs of public participation, but also to use these laws. Our people must read these laws, such that when you're saying we're amending, we are not just amending out of our own will. It's informed by the need and the gaps that would have been seen by our people in our responsiveness, by the way. Because if we are saying 7 days, we acknowledge there is then a 30 days where we expect a responding authority to come back to us. When they don't come back to us in that 30 days, and then it extends to 90 days, citizens must then say you have an act. And you are then against your own act in 90 days, and we want to hold you accountable. Law is binding. And because law is binding, our people must then hold us accountable.
I noted as well, some of your recommendations here include, the one I picked up was that you've noted the large number of RDP or human settlement related petitions, and that as a result, I think you were going to be engaging with the MEC of that particular department. Has that engagement happened? And it said July, so we are almost at the end of July. I don't know whether that did happen. And
it has happened, but we're not satisfied. It happened on the 11th of July, but we're not satisfied. These were 94 petitions, as indicated in our report, that we have dealt with just in the previous quarter.
Wow.
94 is a big number, and we're looking at another 94 and 100 in this quarter that we're working on, because the legislature works one quarter, back. Now, we have met with the MEC, but the report that we got from the MEC says to us 90 are approved, 4 are not getting them on the system, or 8 is approved, and 1 has been approved for a subsidy before. But that is not what we want. We want you to say to us, of the 90, 6 are on the 1994 list, and they are in these particular areas, and this is the plan of the department. And if the department really has challenges, it must then communicate those challenges in their report, so that when we respond to our people, they also are able to get a sense of if they're not satisfied, appealing, but also they can then say, at least we have hope that there's something happening. But I think very important to the committee is the issue around the invasions. which are really affecting our government in terms of providing houses. We're seeing the formalization because now there are informal settlements. But the reality is when you need to build houses, there's basically no land because all lands are invaded. So there would be a process of those who are requesting, for an example, for those informal settlements to be formalized and the department's response. But I want to speak to this very important issue of people who invade RDP houses when someone is approved. When you're approved to a particular stand and a particular project. Now, when people, because of impatience, invade, it then says it creates a backlog for those who were earmarked for that particular project. They then write petitions because those who would have invaded would have written petitions, and the inability of the department to respond timelessly with a plan that really creates, anxiety to our people.
I think there's a lot that needs to be done within our communities as well to also deal with this phenomenon of people renting out RDP houses which were allocated. I think that's deeply problematic because those are the same people that will come back and complain that they are not receiving houses that they've been waiting for years for. Okay, we are just as we start to wrap up, I want to give an opportunity as well to Ms. Matsidi Somfikwe here from the Scrutiny of Subordinate Legislation Committee, just to give us a sense of what we can expect that you'll be working on for the next quarter, the sort of things that when we come back in the next quarter we'll be getting some feedback on.
Thank you very much, Titi. We will be undertaking our post-scrutiny visits, our oversight to various units. And my team were laughing. I said, Konje, we must go to look at the mortuaries as to how do they implement.
You look very excited about that, eh? You look very excited. You like
so we are going to go so that because we need to see that whatever regulations we approve are implemented and society benefits out of that. So we will be undertaking visits to our mortuaries. We will still continue with the casinos because we need to see the application of the regulations.
I'll be watching that one. That one is a particular
I'll check your availability, then you can come with us.
For sure,
okay.
For sure. Because I want to make sure that no elderly person is abused on that oversight visit.
No, we don't abuse people. We represent them. We have a duty to represent and
representation.
So also part of what we need, we are going to have a review of the CSSL Act to see if we can build up. There's work that I think the committee need to do in terms of initiating new regulations without necessarily waiting for the department. We were particularly worried about the upsurge of kids that died because of whatever they got from spaza shops. We want to formulate a regulation on that. We are very worried about the construction mafias and the disruption of projects. So we want to work with DID, transport, housing, in formulating a regulation that will assist government in the implementation of projects and avoiding disruptions. So we feel that the Act needs to allow the committee to initiate. Right now it's referrals from departments. So we want also to have that room to say we're picking up this societal issue. We want more power. Then we'll go to Basil also.
Let's go to.
Thank you very much.
Moody,
but before Honorable Moody comes in, Titi, my last point is encouraging our communities. This point that Member Gentile is raising of participation by our communities. We really want to implore them that when there's a call, notice coming out for them to come and contribute in whatever activity, whether it's the new laws that needs to be formulated, regulations, bylaws, our communities don't go. Then whoever comes and those acts, those bylaws are implemented, it's like, when in actual fact there is a thorough 2 weeks long public participation that is done, but communities don't go.
Show up.
So because at the end it's about them, not about government.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
John Moody?
Yeah, well, as COPA, we are preparing.
Between you and Member Gentile, there you've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll be short and to the point.
Yeah.
I'll be very frugal in my response. We are preparing to meet with the Auditor General with regard to the audits of the books of account of the different departments. And emanating from that breakaway with the Auditor General and the Public Services Commission, we'll then be formulating as a committee, going through those reports, formulating our questions, etc., for hearings with the different departments.
Okay. Member Gentile?
My sense is that as we close, there's a need to really look our stakeholders. My sense is that there's no understanding of the legislature and that government is just department and MECs. And as a result, we then speak out of context in terms of understanding the work of the legislature. And I think that the public participation of the legislature must really relook its stakeholder and also ways to really communicate to our people such that we don't just have your hearings that are physical, maybe virtual ones as well, or ways of contributing, such that when we are making law, our people are there, as and when we enact, they do contribute, as and when we amend, they do contribute. But also, if they want us to repeal some of the elements in our laws, then they guide us. But siyabulela kakhulu for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for inviting us. So once again to all my three guests, the standing committee or the chairperson of the standing committee on the scrutiny of subordinate legislation, Matsidi Somfikwe, Honorable Matsidi Somfikwe. Thank you for your time. Honorable John Moody is the chair of the standing committee on public accounts. I know you guys are honorable. I just thought I'd leave it for last. It takes too long to call you honorable. And Honorable Voiswa Gentile. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature for hosting this. So when are we back? When are we seeing you guys again? Are we seeing other committees? Yeah. Or I'm seeing you at the Oversight.
In fact, we're doing the mortuaries.
You can actually cover our
pass
hearings.
on the mortuaries. Yeah.
You can cover our hearings. But thank
But thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity, and we hope it will continue.
I hope so too. Thank you. I think this is a useful exercise, and thanks to you for your participation as well.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.